Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Natalie Megan. This is Weirdo Book Club. Today we will be discussing the last book in the Vicious Lost Boys series, book 4, The Fae Princes by Nikki St. Crowe. I wore my green for the occasion. Peter Pan, green. You get it. Before we get started, though, I wanted to tell you a little bit about today's sponsor, Parade.
Parade is a size-inclusive, women-owned, sustainable intimates brand that has everything you need, from bras and underwear to pajamas, bodysuits, and even lingerie. I got a couple things to show you today, starting with the bodysuits. First up, I have the After Hours layered mesh bodysuit in the color Valentine. These colors are so bright and bold. I love the mesh detailing and the cutouts. The fabric is so soft, and I cannot wait to wear this. The next thing I grabbed was a new wardrobe staple, the Soft Sculpt bodysuit in the color 8 Ball. It's soft, comfy, and has snaps for easy bathroom trips. Last but not least, I got another luxe sleep dress, this time in the color 8 Ball. I loved my dinner party sleep dress so much I just needed it in another color, and this is how I've been wearing it lately. It's cute, breathable, easy, perfect for sleeping, running errands, or reviewing terrible books. Here I go!
Use my code WEIRDO40 at checkout to get 40% off your entire purchase. This does not include sale items or the Betsy Johnson collection, but everything else is fair game. Thanks again to Parade for sending me such great quality products that I get to talk about, and for sponsoring this video. I'm wearing my little slip dress right now. I live in these clothes. I swear that I do. And now back to Neverland. Okay, we're back. And usually this would be the part where I start with the disclaimers and stuff, but today I'm feeling a little petty. I don't know if it's because I'm on my period or if I've just had enough, but I am. So we're going to do a new segment called Haters Housekeeping, where I read you some of the not very nice comments that I've been getting lately. I don't get very many, but I have gotten a few, and I thought I would use this time to clear up a few misunderstandings that these people obviously have. The biggest one being that I am not the one, and the second one being my videos might not be for you. But again, I'm feeling a little spicy today. So let's go. Item number 1 reads, why can she not go 3 full sentences without going into annoying whispering or weird yelling? The wording of this right off the bat is weird because I don't know who you're speaking to. She who? She me? Are you talking about me? But you're talking to me. I'm the only one back here. It's weird to talk to me in third person. You're being weird. Let's answer your question. It's my channel. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, it's her channel and she does what she wants. Thanks for the comment. You've been hidden from the channel from here on out. Item number 2. You talk too much, wasting 10 minutes before even getting into the point. You clicked on my face. And unless there is some sort of fan out there that is right beside you and forcing my content into your eyeballs, like that guy from Bird Box, you willingly clicked into a 2-hour-long rant review, which is just me talking. That's all that it is. And then you left a comment that said, I talk too much. Are you all right? There's also a fast forward feature where you can just skip right on through the content that you don't want to hear. And if you've watched more than one of my videos, you have a pretty general understanding that the first, 10 minutes, as you said, are me kind of just leading up to this review. So skip it or skip the whole video entirely. It matters not to me. I wouldn't personally care if you took your shitty attitude over to calmer, shorter, less long-winded pastures. I've already hidden you from the channel at this point anyway, so anything else you say in my comments, you'll just be talking to yourself, which is such a shame because you add so much to the discourse. All of this to say, and jokes and sass aside, my videos might not be for you, and that's all right. It's literally fine. There are thousands, dare I say millions of things on the internet that don't appeal to me, and the way I go about that is I don't engage or consume them. Just an idea. It's always an option and one I encourage you to explore. It would yield better results for us all, I fear. Okay, phew, got that out of the way. This concludes Haters Housekeeping. This will probably encourage more stupid people to come out of the woodwork and leave comments in hope that I will do a little thing like this, but this will be the only one, so help me God. Is it cool if I start my weird whispering and yelling now? So disclaimers up top. The first one's always the same, aside from all the things I just said. This review will contain spoilers, opinions, general shit talking, if that sounds like something that doesn't appeal to you. If you're the author or friends of the author or diehard fans of the author that don't know how to engage with people whose opinions differ from you and don't appreciate the humor that I bring to this, shouldn't be here. It's just not for you, and that's all right. Let's go over the details of The Fae Princes. Let's get back on track. This is the last one. I'm so ready. The Fae Princes is book 4 in the Vicious Lost Boys series, which is a wide choose romance spicy fairy tale retelling / reimagining that features the Lost Boys and Peter Pan. It was first published in March 2023. It has 226 pages, and that is book 4 in the completed Vicious Lost Boys series. I have done reviews on my channel for each one of the first 3 books, and if you haven't watched those already, I encourage you to check those out. I'm going to sum it up if you don't feel like sitting through all of those, but I put a lot of work into those, so I would appreciate the views. And if you've enjoyed this series of rants, there's a weirdo named Lee that you can personally send your thank yous out to. Lee commissioned me to review all of this series. What a gem. No, seriously, thank you. I appreciate it, and it has been fun, despite the shenanigans. There is also one other standalone book that exists in this universe. It came out in May of this year, called The Devourer of Men. And this book follows Rock, Hook, and Wendy Darling, apparently, which honestly is the only part of this story that I have any interest in. So am I going to read it? I don't know. At the time of these commissions, it wasn't a thing yet. Like I said, it just came out a couple of months ago. So I don't have to read it. Yet. I know as soon as my commissions open up or somebody signs up for my Help Me tier on Patreon or on my Bindery page, somebody's going to drop this in. I just can feel it in my soul. And I may be in danger, but for now, I am moderately safe because this is the last book I have to do so far right now. All right, here's the synopsis. I thought Peter Pan was a myth and Neverland a fairy tale, a story spun by my mother who had lost her mind a long time ago. But there was no denying the overwhelming shadow cast by Peter Pan when he was standing in my house. Wait, I do what? He lost his shadow. Retrieving the shadow, finding the location of said stolen shadow was the entire plot. This is just the synopsis. The only reason he kidnapped you in the first place was because he needed you to help him find his shadow. What do you mean? Already, this stands to be the dumbest book of the bunch. And I know
it's metaphorical,
but it is still stupid. Okay. Pan took me captive to Neverland. I somehow found my place among him and the Lost Boys. I've never looked back. But now I'm entangled right alongside him in a war I can't seem to escape. We thought we had defeated our enemies. We thought we could finally have our happily ever after. But there was one enemy we never saw coming. How can that be? Because I saw it coming. A fairy who has nothing to lose and everything to gain. The fairy with golden wings and a dark, twisted heart. She wants Peter Pan and the island, and she'll stop at nothing to have both, including destroying anyone who stands in her way, even her own flesh and blood. Note: the Fae Princess is a reimagining of Peter and Wendy. Characters have been aged up for this darker, grittier version. It's still gross. If you like your enemies to lovers romance with hot, ruthless, morally great love interest, you'll enjoy this series. You can expect hate kissing, fighting, bickering, and touch her and I'll unalive you vibes. The Fae Princess is the final book in the main storyline for the Vicious Lost Boys series. Please check the author's website for content warnings. No need. Got them right here for you. They span the entire series. Mental illness, smoking, graphic roughs in public, groups, dubcon, which is dubious consent, graphic violence, graphic language, captive captivity, degradation, submission, bondage, rope, spanking, blood play, choking, CNC, consensual non-consent, talk of essay. Oh. So let's recap before we get into this. Haters in the building. Just skip this if you don't want to hear me talk about it. Okay. Book 1. We meet everyone and it's precious. The line of darling women has been cursed that every year on their 18th birthday, they are kidnapped by Peter Pan and taken to Neverland only to return to the world broken sometime later. The next one up on the docket is Winnie Whore, a nickname that she got from being a seriously neglected, abused, hypersexual child that is promiscuous as a way of coping. Yes, Queen? It's just weird to have to talk about a teenager who is not doing so well. Like, sex positive and doing what you want with your body is great, but that's not what's going on here. She just needs maybe a hug and some therapy. Pan shows up, kidnaps her, takes her to his treehouse so that one day they can have the Fae Queen, which is Tilly, the daughter of Tinkerbell, dig through her memories in hopes of finding the location of the shadow, which was stolen by the original Darling. But there's something different about this Darling. Of course there is. What's different is that when Winnie starts banging Pan and the Lost Boys, she is spared from the telepathic lobotomy that awaits her. And what a coincidence that after that happens, she just all of a sudden has a vision of where the shadow is. How lovely. They retrieve it. She asks to go back to Neverland and stay with them, so she does. And Pan tells her the iconic, "Don't get cocky." And she tells him, "I won't. I'll just get Book 2! They return to the island with the box that has Pan's shadow in it, but when he goes to open it, wah! 2 shadows emerge and blast off in opposite directions and give chase. Apparently, on each of the 7 isles in the realm or whatever, there are 2 shadows that belong to each island, a life shadow and a death shadow. Is it important? Probably not. In between trying to find out how to track down and capture his shadow, Pan and the Lost Boys take turns banging it out with Winnie. Sure. They even let her bang the Never Tree. It's a party, after all. The shadow is tracked to Hook's territory, and a very boring confrontation goes down between all of them, and Pan wins and gets his shadow back where it belongs. Winnie was to stay behind and barricade herself inside the tomb and not come out until they came back for her, but she did not listen. Hook's younger sister, who was currently living with the Lost Boys, lured her down under the guise of helping her save a trapped parakeet from her room, and ended up trapping her in the room with the Neverland Death Shadow instead. Beans is up to something. Instead of it unaliving her like Cherry had hoped, Winnie just claims the shadow for herself. The end. Whew. Book 3, the band of idiots make their way back to the treehouse and find the darling different. There's also a wolf that shows up named Balder, who may or may not have been the prince's long-dead wolf companion that their mother unalived when they were kids. More banging. This time they go airborne. They take to the sky. And all the while, everyone is anxious about Vane's estranged brother Rock, aka the Crocodile, aka the Devourer of Men, and his return to Neverland soil. Yikes. At some point, it is revealed that when Wendy, the original darling, went home, she actually didn't. She was trapped on another island called Everland. Yikes. Not good. Oh no. She was in love with Rock, kidnapped, but also being sexed up by Hook and not hating it. And then abandoned by Pan when he was on his way to take her home. They were ambushed by somebody, I don't know. Wendy and Tink had some sort of an altercation, which led to Pan having to take her out. Tink, that is. Because she betrayed him. And he was also in love with Wendy. Everybody in love with Wendy. Anyway, Winnie has the death shadow, a fight ensues, the band of idiots win. Winnie and Vane now both have the shadow. They have shared the death shadow. It has split and now it is in both of them. Hook is told to leave and never return. Tilly is desperate to defeat Pan, so she uses the lagoon to resurrect Tink in a way that is similar to the Shakira Whenever Wherever video. Pan comes face to face with Tinkerbell. The end. Woo! I don't know if that was helpful, but we're all caught up. Let's get this over with. Okay. The acknowledgements. This book was not possible without the help of several readers. We can all agree that the original Peter and Wendy, the depiction of native characters, was extremely problematic. Yeah, for sure. When I set out to do a Peter Pan retelling, it was important for me to keep the native presence on the island, but it was of the utmost important that it be done in the right way. I have to thank several sensitivity readers for helping me portray the twins and their family stories in the Vicious Lost Boys series in a way that was accurate and respectful to native culture, even if the twins reside in a fantasy world. This was especially important for the book, where we visit the Fae and dive deeper into the twins' backstory. So she thanks her sensitivity readers by name for help in the book and names another person who helped in the portrayal of Smee in the last book. I didn't note anything about that, but then goes on to state, any mistakes or inaccuracies that remain in the book are entirely my own. So I had noticed that the Fae had been somewhat embodying the cultures and the customs of native or indigenous people. And I've been wanting to discuss this for the entire series, but I honestly wasn't sure how to approach it or what I would say. And I kind of wanted to read the entire series before I gave my thoughts on it, but I honestly still don't have any. I feel like wanting to do it in a respectful way and change it so that it's not disrespectful to indigenous people, but still keep the customs and celebrate those things. I feel like that is a good thing. And I feel like her saying, any mistakes in this is my own, like taking responsibility if there is something that she didn't do right. I got it. I still don't really know how I feel about it because I don't have enough insight and I'm also not indigenous. So I don't know enough to say one way or the other if this was a respectful or considerate or even accurate depiction of indigenous people. I like that she wanted to do it in a different, more respectful way, but I still don't really know. So if there are any indigenous people watching and you've read these books and you can kind of weigh in, I don't think like one person speaks for the entire group, but it would just be nice to have some insight. So you feel free to leave it in the comments if you want to. The dedication reads, to all the girls who know the sound of a silent scream. There is no, how do I say this? There is no sound that accompanies a silent scream. That's why it's silent. that's what the word silent means.
It's metaphorical!
I get that. Yeah, no, I do. It's just, if I were giving advice, which I'm not, but if I were, tweaked it a little bit to say something like, to all the girls who know the feeling of holding back a scream, or if you wanted to get like super edgy, cool, deep with it, to all the girls with endless screams caged behind chipped teeth, which is a lot, but it gives you this visual that they want to scream and they have thousands of screams built up and they just can't let them out, so much so that their teeth are chipped, cracked, and broken trying to hold in all the screams. I mean, come on now. I mean, wow, what a picture. But a silent scream is this. Nothing. I know not that sound, for there is no sound. Woo, spicy today. I should never record rants on my period. Or maybe I should only record rants on my period. I have PMDD, leave me alone. Okay, we also have a quote. Peter was not quite like the other boys, but he was afraid at last. A tremor ran through him like a shudder passing over the sea, but on the sea, one shudder follows another till there are hundreds of them. J.M. Barrie. This is from the original book, I guess. I have no clue what to do with that. Prologue, the mother. So this mother is seen walking barefoot across the beach with a screaming 2-week-old baby boy in her arms. Seems to be suffering from some sort of postpartum depression, if I do say so myself. Not to armchair diagnose, but we've been there and we hate to see it. But the baby is awful, volatile, worse than all of her children. She knows this already somehow, and she also knows that if she keeps him, he will destroy all the other children. Now, I have had 2 children and postpartum depression, but even when my kids were 2 weeks old and I was not doing well, I knew nothing about them except for hair color. Maybe I'm just not perceptive of a newborn infant personalities. Anyway, she pulls a Moses and puts him on a giant leaf and sends him down the river, except instead of a river, it's Neverland Lagoon. And instead of one day going on to part the Red Sea, he just parts Winnie's legs. Is that too much? Anyway, Mommy heard that the lagoon has healing power, so maybe it will fix him. Off he goes on his first great adventure. 2 weeks old. What a way to start the finale, huh? Chapter 1 is Pan. Pan and Tink face each other. Remember, that's where we left off in the last book. Tink is back. The island brought her back, says she. And Pan is shook, as he should be, but honestly, if you can just do this with anyone, why? I forget it. He's shook that she's there. He's shook at what it feels like to see her again, stand in her presence, shook by his desire for peace. He's tired and he just wants peace for once. One more dark. Side note before I get started, Pan is British in the audiobook, which I did listen to for this last one because I just had to get through it. And I will say it does help, but only so much. One more dark deed for peace will be worth it, and the spirits will know I'm no longer dancing for them. Whatever sick joke this is. I take a breath and then speak the words I swore I would never speak. I don't believe in fairies. Again, right? The words you swore you'd never speak. Again, because this is how you took her out the first time, after all. But anyway, he says it, and Tink just laughs in his face. Uh-oh. Chapter 2 is Rock. Arguably somehow my least favorite, but also one half of the only duo I do care about in this story. So glad to have you back, buddy, I think. If you could try to be a little less awful and cringy this time, I'd really appreciate it. He's come back to reality from his devourer of men transformation crap that he had on the beach during the face-off with everyone. Captain Hook is nowhere to be found, and he knows it's because Smee told him about Wendy and he went to go find her. He didn't take you with him, Smee. Bummer. She claims to have stayed behind by choice, and he's like, yeah, right, but leaves it alone. He's drinking and being annoying towards Smee and wondering what time it is because he lost his pocket watch in the scuffle, and how long have I been out? Ugh. For someone of my kind, a typical feast would render one unconscious for days. But this wasn't a typical feast, and I am not a typical man. I've heard, yeah. Wouldn't that apply to other people of your kind, right? I mean, like, you've implied that there are others, so whatever. And if you're not a typical man, what are you, a lamp? Are you a lamp? He's ready to go after Wendy himself and tells us that he will skin Hook alive if he finds her first. Okay, cowboy, whoa back. He left first and has a kid with Wendy, a kid that he just found out about. Shouldn't he be allowed to go deal with that? I guess he would be if we were dealing with a typical man, but we are only dealing with atypical men here. Smee's like, you want to know what I think of you? And he's like, not really. But she tells him anyway. She goes on, I didn't kill your brother when I could have. And he's like, I like you, Smee, but if you mention my brother again, I'll take you out. And she's like, whatever. I know you don't even care about this girl. You haven't seen her in years. I don't know why I'm giving her this affect, but whatever. He's like, I don't care. I'm possessive and she's mine. Hate that. Sorry for that weird whispering, bud. I'm gonna chill. Oh, goody. The clouds roll in. It starts to get chilly. Rare for Neverland. This must be when Tink showed up, like Shakira. Finally, Smee is like, fine, then go. And Rock's like, I'm gone.
Go. I'm gone. Go then. Well, I am.
He asks if she knows where Wendy is. And Smee's like, why? So you can destroy her like you destroy everything? And Rock goes on to tell her that destroying things can be fun. I think he's talking about the sex. I lost track of Wendy Darling long ago. Jazz has no more information than you do. She says goodbye and leaves the room. And he says it's time for Plan B. What was Plan A? Chapter 3 is Winnie! Our last first time reuniting with Winnie is hitting a little harder than I thought. Will I miss her? She wakes up freezing despite being in a Lost Boy cuddle puddle.
Rise and shine.
It's so cold and that's just not normal here. It's usually so warm and lovely on Neverland, further telling us that Tink's return has caused weather-related consequences. Winnie stirs and goes to look out the window. Is it snowing? She asks the sleepyheads if it ever snows on Neverland, and they're like, never. And she's like, well, it's totally snowing. And that gets them up.
Rise and shine, Sammy.
All of this starts to give Winnie a panic attack, which is, it's just snow. Like, I understand that it's weird, but it's snow. Breathe. Vane comes to comfort her, and they're all like, where's Peter? She can feel Peter moving around somewhere in the house, and that's when she realizes that this dread she feels isn't hers. It's Pan's. Okay, so she's having a panic attack by proxy. Is this the shadow, or is she just an empath? She goes to pull on some clothes and head out to find him, but he's not alone. Tink stands with a blade to his throat. And Winnie's like, what do you want? And she knows this is Tink because she had a vision of her when she unalived her ancestor, the original Darling. Tink's like, it's nice to meet you, Winnie. The twins, Tinkerbell's sons, are shook. She tries to approach them lovingly, and they're like, stay away from me, fam. Tilly, is this your doing? Cut this shit out. And Tink tries to approach them again, and Winnie steps in front of her. Cass steps around her, though, to check and see if Tink is actually real. She is. They all take turns addressing her, and she's like, I want to make amends. Come to the palace for a feast. We can all be friends. I don't know why that's her voice. And Bash is like, we're not stupid. I disagree. But Tink's like, my boys need to be home where they belong. I've asked Tilly to give your wings back. We can all unite Neverland and stop all this fighting. And then she flies off. I really hate how bored I am with this series at this point. Like, the return of Tinkerbell, the King Koopa boss of Neverland, should be exciting. And yet it is not. Chapter 4 is Bash. The boys are shook. I can't, it has to be an illusion. It can't be real. There's stupid bitch of a mother back from the dead. How can this be? First Baldur, now this? What the heck is the lagoon up to? Bash heads back to the loft, grabbing a bottle of human whiskey on the way. Anytime anyone in this house is thirsty, they reach for alcohol. Bottoms up. Loves it. Cass follows him, and so do the rest of them. Pam looks like he's seen a ghost, which... yeah. Vane's like, it's clearly a trap. This is so boring. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry. I don't know how to make it fun. Maybe they can have like a fivesome with a tree or something. They do enjoy banging it out with Winnie when times get tough. How have I come full circle to now wishing for a bang sesh? Pick a hole. But instead we just get more boring narration. Vane seems different now that he shares something with the Darling that the rest of them don't. See, if you remember from the last book, the last video, before any of this shadow sharing occurred, Pan said something similar in this realm where it's always meant to be Vane. He will get parts of Darling the rest of us can never see, but back then, that made no fucking sense. Because they were all breaking off pieces of Winnie like she was a slutty Kit Kat bar. It just made no sense at the time. The timeline was just all stupid, and instead of saying that, Pan could have said something. Nobody's asking me, but Pan could have said something like this. I know Darling cares for all of us, but something tells me there's more connection between her and Vane. What could it be? His British, it's messing with my mind. Anyway, that would foreshadow what we know now, that they share a death shadow, but it wouldn't make such bold statements with nothing to back it up. Like, there was no way that Pan could have known this. He's not able to see the future. That's not a feature that he has. This time, when one of the twins says it, it makes sense because Vane literally has half of the Neverland death shadow, and the other half is inside of Winnie, aka access to a part of her that the others don't have. I'm being really picky here, huh? What are you gonna do? Anyway, the twins are doing their little Faye twinkle talk, and Pan's like,
What are you two girls whispering about over there?
speak up, no time for secrets. And they're like, we want our wings back. And Pan's like, Tink is lying. I can read her better than anyone. She probably didn't even consult your sister about, is he British or not? I'm losing it. She probably didn't consult your sister about anything. How would we even get your wings back if we were to try? Like that. Apparently, they used to burn Fae wings when they were taken, but since they're royals, they're sealed away in some vault somewhere, I don't know. What are you suggesting? Vane meets Pan in the middle of the loft, break into the Fae palace and into their vault, steal their wings back? Wings that are stored in some unknown magical vessel with the entire Fae court is on top of us, helmed by a petty Fae queen and her resurrected evil mother? There's an entire paragraph that follows this where Pan is simply lighting up a cigarette. Then finally he says, yes. Pan knows that they want their wings. He also promised to help them get them back, and since Tink will always use them as leverage, the time for them to get them back is now. And they want their wings back, okay? They want to feel whole again. Everybody else in the house can fly. It's not fair. But Vane's not having this. This is a stupid idea. And if y'all want to fly so bad, I'll kick you into next week.
Clap if you've ever wanted to kill somebody.
And Bash is like, I don't give a shit. Vane turns to Winnie. He sits up straight. What is that mortal saying, Win? The one about fools? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Fool me, we can't get fooled again.
I did not expect to ever be able to work in a George W. Bush clip, but here we are. What a stupid book. I think I'm dying. I cross the room and shove his boots off the table so I can sit on the edge. Elbows on my knees, I lean forward towards him. He scowls at me. Look, Dark One, would I rather get shit-faced and tie Darling to my bed until she screams or deal with my undead mother and conniving sister? Obviously, I want the former. The latter makes my head hurt. But once upon a time, you had a sister too. Low blow. And all of that, what a weird thing to say. Oh, wait, no, okay, so Tilly. They're worried about Tilly because they don't know how Tink got here. They don't know that she's involved in it. So naturally, they'd want to go get their wings back so that they could protect their sister. I get it. But still, you want to bring up Vane's sister? Yikes. A scuffle breaks out naturally. Darling tries to stop them. It does not work. She asks Pan for help and he doesn't do anything, so she hulks out and lunges at them. Isn't this what Tink wants? For you to turn on each other? Bash ends the chapter by telling us that Pan seems worried. I think we're all worried, buddy, but not about Tink. I'm worried about Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is Pan. I can't get Tink's words to stop echoing in my head. All the time I spent down there with the spirits of the lagoon, you hear many curious things about myths and men who think they are myths. Men who think they are myths. Is this like an existential thing? Then he thinks, was that aimed at me? I know it was. Yeah, no shit. Golly. Was anyone on a different page with that? But what was she hinting at? That I'm not who I think I am? He ruminates a little bit more on the words that the lagoon was whispering to him after he got yeeted in there in the last book. What is the lagoon trying to tell me? What is Tink trying to tell me? I don't know, Peter. I just want it done. I just want to be done. It's still snowing. I don't know if that's relevant other than to show us that something is amiss.
There's evil afoot.
But it was noted here again, so here we go. Here we are. Walking in a winter neverland. Darling approaches him and calls him Peter, and he's like, don't call me that. Tink calls me that. She's like, cool, I won't. He breaks his silence by telling the rest of the gang that they are absolutely going to go to the palace, and everyone is gagged thinking he's lost his friggin' mind. But he knows that the last time he stood by and did nothing, a darling died, and that's not going to happen again.
Hello from the void. I just had something scream to the front of my brain that did not show itself whatsoever in the initial read-through of this review. What darling died? Pray tell. I would love to know, because Wendy Darling is very much alive, and every single person in the book knows that now, including me, because unfortunately I am also in this. Wendy Darling was abandoned and left on Everland by Peter Pan when he was sent to take her back to the mortal realm. So who the hell is he talking about? Which darling died? Somebody give me a family tree and show me who's deceased. I do not know what he's talking about. This book makes no sense. I'm so angry and tired and ready to go to... Look how over this Beans is. This book has gotten to Beans. And that is just unforgivable. All right, let's get back to it. Ugh.
No one else likes this plan, but it's the only one they've got. I'm going to try to do this British thing. Okay. We go to the palace, I say, and start for the hall. We accept the invitation to quell Tinkerbell's aggression. We pretend to make amends because at the very least, it'll get us the twins' wings the easy way. And if we don't get them in the easy way, we'll be in the better position to get them the hard way. He surveys the room. Okay, does a little math. Cass has Bash. Vane is closer to the darling than anyone else. Plus, They now share the shadow. And Peter stands and feels this crushing loneliness because a very, very long time ago, he had Tink, and now he has no one. This brings a memory to mind of Tink wading across the lagoon towards him long ago. Can I be your fairy, Peter? No, he's British! You know you can't be my fairy, Tink, because I'm a gentleman and you're a common fairy. You silly ass. Then she'd laughed and... He's British! Then she'd laughed and kicked a splash of water my way. When the memories burble up, they're always followed by grief. Tinkerbell was my best friend for as long as I can remember, and if my best friend could turn on me... We go to the palace, I tell them. Be ready just before sundown, and then I leave them to discuss what a silly ass I am, no doubt. Woo! Lots of insecure projection coming from Pete. I get it. I mean, this is a lot for an eternal being with a brain capacity of a walnut to have to unpack. Lots of feelings. However, what I don't get is how it's still so boring. It shouldn't be this boring. Chapter 6 is wrong. Ugh. For all its faults, Neverland is a place with a lot of magic and many magical things, and magical things can help a beast find a missing darling girl. Say magical more. Say it one more time. So I start marking things off the list. Peter Pan might know how to find Wendy. Why does he need a roadmap to Wendy? Just go to Everland and do your best. Try to hunt down Hook and follow him. I don't... How is the Devourer of Men not even able to deduce things in a way that Kronk can?
We find the village, we find him, and if we find him, we find Cusco.
Come on, Devourer of Men, where's that go-get-'em attitude and can-do spirit? He thinks to himself that maybe the Fae Queen knows, but he isn't sure how she fared after the whole showdown. Like, she might be dead, but he decides to go off in that direction and find out for himself anyway. First, he goes to Captain Hook's house at the top of the hill to get a better vantage point on the town. I thought they didn't have a home. Like, isn't that what Cherry was on about before? Like, she wanted a home to go home to. Meanwhile, they have like an entire house.
It's metaphorical!
I know. He's looking down over the whole town like the Grinch overlooking Whoville, and he notices it's got some weird weather going on, and sees a statue of Hook right at the center. He thinks to himself, fragile masculinity on display. And then he starts following a scent like Pepe Le Pew. A scent of what? Roasting peanuts. Dear God, here we go again. He approaches the old man who runs the nut stand. Old man, you have delighted this old man. Say old man again. Bloody fucking hell, you know how to roast a nut. And then he practically orgasms on the spot over a roasted peanut. I am so tired. He narrows his gaze from beneath the wide brim of the newsboy cap. It's smudged with peanut oil and dirt. His shirt is denim, which is an odd thing considering denim only exists in the mortal world. Of course, bits and bobs and trinkets and whores make their way to the island chain from many realms, and I suppose a denim shirt has as much of a chance as a naughty slut. Though I do prefer a slut over the denim, I'm happy to stick Mike into a wet, warm hole, not so much into hard pants. Is he telling me that he prefers to be inside of a woman than inside of pants? Is Rock wearing pants? It's never said. I will say that if I was invested in this story at all, I'm not. I've never been so bored in my life. But if I was invested, I would say that this harmless peanut roaster probably is someone important. Like, I would think that he would be. Maybe like a brother of the original Darling or something, because for him to be wearing denim, you know, maybe he's more than what he seems. It's denim, for Christ's sake. How'd he get here? Plus, while Rock was feasting on his favorite nuts, he asked the old man if he knows where to find Wendy Darling. Why the would he know? What on earth would make you think that this random dude wearing a denim shirt would know where Wendy Darling is? Spoiler alert, I'm in the future. The peanut roaster is in fact no one, and he comes up never again. So I'm even more stunned at the stupidity of asking a random man who roasts peanuts for a living where he could find Wendy Darling. He probably doesn't even know who that is. I dig into my pocket and pull out a coin and flip it to him. He may be old, but he catches it easily, though the motion nearly throws him off balance. He holds out his palm to inspect the currency. It's twice the rate he has painted on the side of the peanut cart in chipped white paint, right next to Potter's Peanuts. What is? The price? Great. Thank you for telling. Oh my God. And then, best nuts in Neverland. I don't disagree. That work for you? I ask him. That works just fine. Thick clouds roll in, stealing the light from the town square. I turn back for the road. I hope God spares you, old man. It would be a shame to lose these tasty nuts. Yeah, wouldn't that be a tragedy? We'd have to give all the kids at school the day off. Time skip, he's at the Fae Palace, cup of nuts in hand still, and he finds the palace in chaos! Not the kind of chaos you can see like a tornado or a severed head. The quieter kind, like the buzzing energy of a crowd gathered round a bomb waiting for it to go off. What crowd would gather around a bomb and wait for it to go off. No one is shouting, but I get the distinct impression everyone is silently screaming. Oh, here we go again. Nomming on some nuts, he stops a young Fae girl to ask where the queen is. The girl is scared as she scans him, as she should be, I would be. But he tells us, on a good day, my face can open doors and legs. Great. She tries to leave, but he grabs her and calls her little Faeling, and then lets us know that he isn't sure how old she actually is because the Fae age in strange ways, which is awesome because that means he gets a scapegoat for all the childlike beings he wants to bang. I love that. I really do. Anyway, she says, I think she's in the throne room. Everyone's preparing for a celebration. But what could they be celebrating? I don't know, but I'm gripped with anticipatory excitement. He wanders in and finds Tilly and he's like, we need to talk. And she's like, not now. And then he realizes the throne is gone. How odd. And as he's putting the pieces together, in walks Tinkerbell. She greets him with a hug and he leers at Tilly. What have you done? And I'm still so bored. This is so boring. My God. But Tink answers for her. She did what needed to be done. She just tells us again what we already know, because why do it once when you could do it every single chapter? Blah. Another silent scream is mentioned. Love that. Can't get enough. Tink stands next to Tilly and tells Rock that she plans to bring the boys home so that they can rule as they were destined to. And Peter Pan will yield. Rock lights a cigarette, and Tink says, no smoking in the palace. And listen, I am trying to streamline this review because this book is so boring, and I honestly just want to be done, but this had to be noted. He says, try and stop me. I'm in the middle of a shitstorm and I didn't bring a raincoat. A shitstorm with no raincoat? He also says, your daughter is queen. If you put your sons in power, what happens to her? I don't know why he cares. He's the devourer of men. All he cares about are wet, warm holes and toasted nuts. But Tink is ominous about finding something to do with her, for her, to her. I don't know. Chapter 7 is Cass. We're talking about Nana again. Something about a boy that she met and he needed help, so she helped him. He goes over all of his trauma, his secrets, his questions, his family squabbles. He wishes Nana was here to guide him with wisdom and to share her stories. He loved listening to Nana's stories, and honestly, I get it. I miss my grandma too. He decides to go visit Nana's grave, and Bash joins him. Vane's like, don't get too close to Fae territory, and they head off. Snow is still falling as they make their way to the cemetery. Before they approach, though, they see that their sister, Tilly, is already there visiting Nana's grave too. He spends a few paragraphs detailing what the cemetery looks like, but you don't need that from me, do you? It's a cemetery. It's small, no fence, only reserved for the Royal Nine. And that was probably a clear picture enough. We didn't have to keep just going, did we? I guess we did. I don't know why we need so many descriptions, but at least we're having fun. Right? What did you do, Till? I did what needed to be done. They go on to have yet another conversation about how Tink is back. Like, they explain it again. They ask her how she did it. She says she made an offering to the lagoon. I understand. We've heard this 14 times now. It's only chapter, 7? And I know that this is still news to them because everybody has to find out, right? But do we have to write every single instance of every single person finding this out? It's giving repetitive. And this is a great example of why it really pays off to organize and outline your story really well so that it flows and it doesn't make your readers check out every single time you repeat information for no reason. But hey, no one asked me. She tells them that she asked the lagoon for a solution to defeat Pan once and for all. And Cass explains to us how Pan has weaknesses, a few of them being them and the others. But Tink is a weakness too. She loves him. He has no heart, or he pretends not to, but he loved her too. And now I know all of this already. We're still having the same conversation. She reveals that she tossed her throne in, and they are big mad about it. Cass nearly chokes her to death and finally unloads on her the way only a bitter, angry brother can do. He yells about how they sacrificed and plotted and protected her, and now she does this. Youngest sibling shit, am I right? Ugh. If my youngest sibling is watching, though, not you, baby. Never you. They talk about Nana and how Tilly never spent much time with her, and yet she visits the grave. Why? Because now she realizes that the only family she ever had that never wanted anything from her was Nana. Sucks to suck, buddy. Living with regret after a loved one passes away is a bitch. I don't experience it, but I know people who do, and it seems to be all-consuming. Hate that for you. Anyway, she leaves. What a chapter. Chapter 8 is Winnie. She's watching Vane smoke in a chair. She asks if he's mad at Pan. He's like, yeah, he's being reckless. She's like, well, can you blame him? Tink is back. This is big shit. And he notes her filthy mouth and calls her darling. Same shit, different book. She tells him that she doesn't like it when he calls her darling and starts dry humping him in the chair, which is sexy. And she explains to him that when he calls her Winnie, it feels more intimate or whatever. So he carries her to the library in preparation for a good dicking down. As they enter, and since they share the shadow now, he can feel her imposter syndrome. God, I'm glad nobody can freaking feel mine. Her imposter syndrome, her fears, her questions, and he's like, I got you. And she says, you don't have to save me.
Don't save her, she don't wanna be saved.
And then she tells us, I don't want him to think me weak. How can this be infuriating and boring at the same time? Why are we saying this again? Why do we do this? They bang. She's like, I love him so much it burns. That's called a yeast infection. Maybe a UTI. You need to go to a doctor. Cut to an ad for Monistat. He's like, I can feel your love in my chest like a million golden stars in the endless abyss that is me. Almost 6,000 people highlighted that line, if anybody was curious. And if any of those 6,000 people are there today, can you please explain yourself? I'm just kidding. Do you? Chapter 9 is Pan. He hears them banging as he makes his way down the hall. And I swear to God, if this is just another chapter of smut and them banging it out, I will cry all over you. Thank goodness, instead of barging in and literally inserting himself, he goes down the hall and deals with his own imposter syndrome in the form of, you don't deserve the shadow, being whispered over and over in his head. And he tries to remember what it was the spirits of the lagoon were saying to him that night that he yeeted in there. Never king, given light, trapped in the dark. OMG, what does it mean? I don't know, nor do I particularly care because the answer is no doubt boring and inconsequential to the story. I would bet my life on it. The lovebirds emerge from their nest and Pan is in a mood. He's rude to Vane, he's rude to Winnie, and everybody's like, what's wrong, fam? And he's like, bestie, everything. That's it. That's the whole chapter. Chapter 10, Winnie. Peter Pan is an asshole. Uh-huh. Has been this whole time, buddy. Yeah. She's worried about him. So is Vane. So am I. But I'm worried for all of us at this point. So they decide to take a bath. Riveting. She brushes her hair as he runs the water, and she tells us that she's never really cared much about her appearance because, quote, boys didn't care if my hair was shining if my legs were spread. Ugh. People deal with things, right, in their own ways. What makes sense to them. I know that. And hypersexualization is certainly one of those, but call me old-fashioned, call me square, but I don't want to keep hearing about that. I'm not your therapist, Winnie, though you desperately need one. Throw one of the Lost Boys into the lagoon and ask it for a therapist. They get in the bath and they discuss the Fae Princes, and Vane's like, I don't care about them. And she's like, liar. And he's like, fine, but if you tell them, I'll edge you to death for the rest of your life. If you really want to torture her, Vane, you can make her read this book. And he tells her that when they visit the palace, she's not to leave his sight because Tink would destroy her given the chance. That's the whole chapter. Mm-hmm. Chapter 11 is Bash. They return to the loft and Bash is heavy from the encounter with his sister, and that makes sense. Thankfully, Winnie and her milky skin are there to make him feel better. Gosh darn it, why do we always have to fight? I just want to eat and bang all day instead. Same, brother. Same, I get it. Up top, we have yet again another recounting of events. Tilly threw the throne into the lagoon. I don't know if you knew that. Didn't ask for Tink specifically, but it's what she got. Because the throne is a symbol of, I know. Oh God, I know, we know. Darling wants to eat something and Bash is like, what do I get for it? She's like, you can tie me up later. Thrilling. Then we have a daddy play mention dropped in the book, and I couldn't hate this book more if I tried. Somebody says something about Vane being daddy now. Vane's like, and Winnie's like, I'm sorry, you have daddy energy. And one could argue that I have daddy issues. Very big daddy issues. I want to leap into the lagoon and request to be brought back as a clothing hanger. Apparently, during a game of strip poker that was written in a bonus chapter that is nowhere in this series, Bash called him daddy, and now it has stuck. Anyway, Cass takes Winnie to feed her. Food or the D? We may never know. Vane asks Bash about Tilly, and Bash is like, maybe if I can get her alone, I can save her. And Vane is like, well, cool, let's do that, because if you don't, you'll always regret it. Chapter 12 is Winnie. We're flying through, except we're not because there's almost 20 more. Okay, I lied. Cass doesn't take her to get food. He takes her to Cherry's room to get dressed in something appropriate for the palace. They find her a poofy emerald green gown, and Cass helps her into it. I got my green on. As he's zipping her up, he asks if he's able to join later when Bash ties her up. Can I just take a second and tell you one more time? I feel like I've already talked about this, but I want to tell you again how disgusting and sick I find this tandem twin fucking. Like, this is your brother. Your brother. You're not supposed... This is incest. I mean, there's a whole section on Hub, right? That is like stepbrother, brother, twins. Wow, I know. But it ain't for me, man. It's not for me. Just stop it. She gets in the dress, and it's too big because even though she has put on weight while being here, her chest will always be smaller than Cherry's. So Cass illusions that it does actually fit her and that she's wearing makeup. Pops a filter on her, basically. I don't see how, so my sensory issues could never, because unless the illusion covers all 5 of the senses, would you not feel that the fabric doesn't fit you? Would you not feel it kind of falling off of you and it just looks to everyone else on the outside and to her that it fits? I'm thinking way too much. I'm thinking way more than the author did when she wrote this. So just... Afterward, they go back to the kitchen and she is, quote, stuffing her face, which seems stupid to me. Why would you put on your outfit and then scarf down food? Now, Jersey Shore taught us a lot. Gym tan laundry, cabs here, fist pumping.
Fist bump till my arm falls off.
Don't headbutt a concrete wall when you're in Italy. Run. Look at my face. Are you friends with her? Yes or no? We got so much from them.
Yeah, buddy.
And another thing that they taught us is about t-shirt time. Before the juice heads on Jersey Shore go out for the night, they wear a round the house t-shirt. They have everything else ready. Their hair's done, their cologne, they got the jeans, the shoes, the drip. They're ready except the shirt. They have a regular shirt on. That way, when they're doing their last minute little titters around the house, their shirt doesn't run the risk of getting spilled on or damaged or stained in any sort of a way. And then when it is literally time to walk out the door, they tell us that it is in fact
T-shirt time.
And then they change their shirt into the shirt that they're gonna wear when they go out.
This is the shirt before the shirt.
T-shirt time, okay? Frantically stuffing your face with chicken biscuits and veggies in a full ball gown is as stupid as it is unnecessary. You could have done this first and then gotten dressed. Vane comes around the corner and he is suited up, and it almost makes Winnie choke on her chicken biscuits. I wish she had, because then the book would be over and I would be done. Vane looks over at me. Swallow your food before you choke on it. So it's okay to choke on Lost Boy, but not chicken and biscuits? I'm not crying. So Winnie looks at all of them and they're all wearing black tuxes and she's like, am I the only one wearing any color tonight? And that's when Pan finally reemerges from wherever he's been, and he is in fact wearing color too. It's an emerald green suit. Of course it's green. It's Peter Pan after all. Chapter 13, Winnie again. They're approaching the palace and Winnie is just like gagged. It's gorgeous. Cass is nostalgic, but also talking about how it just never felt like home, that Nana's little cottage in the woods felt like home. Cool. They enter and start to move through the palace. Some little fairy named Cleo escorts them through. She says something insulting towards the fallen princes, and Winnie almost hulks out and threatens her life. There are also some girls giggling and like making eyes at the twins. So she is big mad. Yeah. And Vane's like, look at me when you feel like the shadow is taking over. I'm having so much fun. Chapter 14 is Pan. Yeah, that was it. That was the only that's it. He knows that he shouldn't drink in enemy territory. But why would he let logic and reason stop him from getting sloshed? Bottoms up. It wouldn't, so he downs some Fey wine. Tink approaches, embraces the twins, and tells them to go get ready in their dressing rooms, and like takes a dig at Peter Pan, saying that, I assumed you wouldn't have anything that my boys could wear. No offense. Much offense, but also it's not even, who cares? Why would he be stocking a full wardrobe for all different occasions for them when they are literally just half naked on the beach banging Winnie all the time? They don't need a tux. What do they need a tux for? They aren't supposed to split up, but they do. Sure. And Tink's like, walk with me, Peter. And they stroll arm in arm. Teases him about those questions that he used to ask the lagoon over and over years ago. Spirits of the lagoon, do I have a mother? Rude, but sure. And this leads her to tell him that she actually has an answer. She spent so much time in the lagoon, she heard whisperings while she was down there. He doesn't want to hear it, but he does. Apparently, he did have a mother. We know this already. I love it when information is repeated. He did have a mother, but because he didn't fit in with the family, she was worried that he would take from them, so she abandoned him to the lagoon. And with that, Tink takes her leave with a promise that they'll talk more later. Chapter 15 is Winnie. Rock is here, being the worst, as usual. No sign of any nuts, though. Rats. He dances with Winnie and tells them a little bit more about their sister, yet again repeating information that we already knew. He details all the horrible things that were done to his sister, and Winnie just weeps over how much pain that might have caused Vane. Shut up. Chapter 16. It's Cass. So they're in and they're getting dressed in their whatever, and then they wander off and sneak into the vault. And the vault somehow magically opens for them in spite of them being banished. And they're both like, that seems too easy. No shit. Chapter 17 is the other twin, Bash. Sure, they're still in the vault, finding nothing. They note that they didn't find their wings. They're not where they were supposed to be, but there is some sort of hint of residual dark magic in their place. Anyway, they head back. Wasn't that fun? That's so fun. Chapter 18 is Pan. Pan continues to act like an asshole, and it's elevated now because now he has mommy issues. God. He talks to Winnie about it in between feeling horny for her. We love a girl that can do both for you, I guess. And maybe not an actual girl, but we don't get to choose. Lost Boy is mentioned. Since Pan's acting like an idiot, Winnie has a solution, and it's to let him bang her in the throne room. So he goes in there and finger pops her and says, "Is this veins leaking out of you, darling?" She confirms that yes, in fact it is. And so he makes her taste it. Can we take a second, just one more second, to discuss how gross all of this is? Even if these characters are aged up, Winnie isn't. 18 years old to the day. Just turned 18. And then they swiped her up. What are we doing? And if the boys weren't aged up, it might make it a little less child rape. But then it would be just a bunch of kids having sex and detailing it to me. Like, what are we doing? Like, it doesn't even matter that they're aged up. This is gross. Anyway, the twins come back and they're like, "Did you find anything?" And you're like, "We didn't find the wings, but we found this." What do you think they found? What do you think they found? I'm gonna give you no hints. Fairy lube. I'll say it again. A fairy lubricant. And Pan's like, "Perfect timing. We were just thinking about taking the darling home and letting her us until we forget.
Forget that my mother abandoned me, but I can't tell them that.
Forget that it's snowing." Quote, "Let us warm ourselves in the heat of darling's." We talked about character continuity in the last book with Rock, so if you didn't watch that, I'll just give you a refresher. I hate this. Rock did it in the last book where one line he's speaking like a 16th century Shakespearean playwright saying, "Oh, look at the time. I have 1 hour and 3 before I must take my leave." And then on the next page he says things like, "Balls deep." The language that these idiots use throughout the book is mostly normal. And then every now and then, they wish to warm themselves in her heat. Figure out your shit before you make it my problem. That's all that I ask. I am begging at this point. I am so freaking exhausted. Time skip. They're on their way back home for the 4-for-1 bang fest. How delightful. Pan and Vane chat about nothing. Chapter 19 is Winnie. Oh, good. I love getting the freshly 18 POV for these encounters. Yum. The house is cold, and they note the absence of Lost Boys. Isn't that the point? Aren't they supposed to be lost? Come on, Winnie. Get your head out of your ass. It's so cold in the house that they suggest taking her to Pan's old room up top. And then Winnie tells us all about this one house that she and her mom lived in that had this tiny Coraline style door that led to a little secret attic space that she loved. Pencils down, guys. This will not be on the test because it's not important and it doesn't matter. They go up to the loft or whatever and they still don't bang. They just edge each other with words. Chapter 20 is Winnie again. We're doing the thing again. We're doing the thing where new chapters start in the exact same moments in the same POV with no new circumstances for no freaking reason. They tie her up and blindfold her and ask her if she wants to play a game.
I want to play a game.
No, not like that. Not that kind of a game, please. She's to guess whose hands and lips are on her, and if she gets it right, she'll be rewarded, and if she gets it wrong, she'll be punished. I'm not gonna lie to you. This sounds fun. Okay, I'm not reading all of that, but they bang, they play the game. Some of them she gets right, some stuff she gets wrong. Fantastic, to be honest. They do use the Fae lube. I know you were freaking curious. And they tell her that it's like nothing you felt before. And she says, warmth spreads through me, then pleasure, as the lube moves like living water, rippling over my skin with a soft caress. So it's just lube with warming and a tingling sensation. And we have that here. Walmart, aisle G19. They finish taking turns in every orifice and then giving her water and tucking her in. Chapter 21, Winnie, again, she wakes up and is met by Tinkerbell. They exchange words, but none of them do I remember.
Guess what? I don't recall.
And all of a sudden, she hears her mother crying for her out on the beach. Oh no! She bolts down there, falls into a trap, no doubt set by Tink. A lost boy puts a lid on top of the trap, and she is being buried alive. No, she just wakes up because
it was all a dream.
Cass is there, and he's like, no, you're fine, you're safe. He calms her down. Chapter 22 is Pan. Pan wakes up in a lot of pain because the lost boys are attacking, and he's been stabbed. He takes a couple of them out. Vane tosses one over the balcony. So the lost boys are attacking. I thought
it was all a dream.
But okay. Pan does tell us that the Lost Boys seem to have kind of a sheen, a glaze over their eyes. They don't really seem to know what they're doing or where they're at, which would lead us to believe that they are illusioned and being controlled in some sort of a way. Who cares? But the darling is missing somehow. This doesn't make any sense. Was she dreaming or not? Pan's stomach still hurts because of the type of blade he was stabbed with. Because you know he has the shadow, so he should be healing, but he is not feeling good. It's forged a volcanic stone from Lost Land. Cass explains. He snaps his finger at his brother. That's what was missing from the Fae Vault. Christ, that's not good.
Oh, buddy, back from the void. Hello. Christ. Jesus Christ, as in the Lord and Savior according to the Christian religion. What is Christ doing in here? A few chapters ago, Vane had to ask Darling what that mortal saying was about fool me once, shame on fool me twice. But y'all know the Lord? Stupid. All right, back to it.
And they're all like, it doesn't make sense that the Lost Boys would turn on us. They seem possessed somehow. What the fuck? This isn't right. Y'all, how stupid are you? This is book 4 that has things like magic and illusions and all this other stuff. Like Pan can summon things out of nowhere. He has a life shadow. Darling has a death shadow. So does Vane. They can fly. So I ask again, how stupid are you? They have to find Darling though, but they have to go without Pan because he is not doing well from the wound, which is odd because like I said, he has the life shadow. He should be healing. This blade. Yeah, I put those together too. You didn't have to. Okay. Just as they're about to leave to go find Darling, zing! 3 more blades come in and hit Vane right in the chest. He goes down and in walks Tink with a reluctant Tilly following. They exchange words and it's all pointless, all to say that Tink is here to put the twins back on the throne where they belong. It is their destiny. We know. You already told us that. But the boys are like, absolutely not. We're not letting you do that while you're here to unalive Pan and Vane. We just want our wings. We don't want to rule. And then Tink tells Tilly to spill. And she does. Tilly actually never had their wings. Once they were taken, they were promptly destroyed. And chaos just erupts in the treehouse. And Tink is like, there are other ways to fly. Implying that they should take Pan's shadow. And the twins are like, as if. And Tink's like, fine. I guess you'll never see your darling girl again. They're freaking out, but Pan's like, take it. And they're like, no way. But Pan's like, yes way. I'm paraphrasing. He goes on and on about how he was never meant to have the shadow. He's got his whole imposter syndrome and mommy issues coming right up to the front along with all the blood he's losing. But there is a final test to see if the shadow will go to them. Because you know, the shadow, we've heard several times that a shadow will only go to someone that it chooses to go into. The shadow pops out of Peter Pan and envelops the boys in some sort of light. And when they emerge, they have their wings again. Woohoo! Chapter 23 is Cass. They come to, they have their new wings. They're like, oh my God, is this real? Hold on, beans break. You gonna stay with me? Okay. That's fine. And then Tinkerbell goes to embrace them, but they're like, no, where is Darling? And she's like, what is it about Darling girls that makes everyone lose their freaking minds? You got me, Tink. I have the same question. Anyway, they're determined to find her. Pan's like, Vane, go find her, take the twins with you. Nothing else happens. But like, why should Vane go? He just took 3 to the chest. I guess he has a shadow, so he should be fine, but doesn't he need to like rest? Don't we all need to rest? Chapter 24 is Winnie. She is actually trapped. It was not all a dream, after all. She's buried in the earth inside of some sort of a box, and she works out that Tink must have made an illusion to make me feel like I was safe with the boys. And she vows to unalive her as soon as she gets out of there. She pleads for her shadow to do something, and it's like, nah. This bugs me, because what's the point in having a shadow if it literally just opts out of most of the things you need help with? Anyway, she's saved. By whom? Tilly. Why not? Yeah. They have a little chat about how Tilly was never loved by her mother, and she was only doing what she thought she had to do. But now, she just needs to help Winnie so that she can save her brothers. And just as Tilly's about to pull her out of the hole, Vane just blasts into her. And Winnie has to be like, no, don't. She saved me. She's okay. She's cool. And then she notices that Vane is covered in blood. And he's pale, so the blood must be his. Uh-oh. And he tells her that Pan sacrificed the shadow over to the twins. To this, Winnie initially tries to just dart off in the direction of Pan, but Vane's like, whoa, don't, Winnie. The shadow went to them. And Winnie then takes another, 500 or so minutes of my life that I'll never get back to explain to us something that we already know, which is it has to accept the host. It has to choose you. And again, we know that because of how it's been spoken of for the last 4 motherfucking books. Then after all that repetitive narration, we get more repetitive dialogue where Winnie's like, we have to save him. And Vane's like, we can't right now. It's chaos back at the treehouse. Tink is somehow controlling the Fae and the Lost Boys. What in the world? And Tilly tells us that they've always been good at infiltrating minds and casting illusions. But Tink is obviously better at it, and especially now since she returned from the lagoon. No shit. I could have figured that out myself. I really could have. I have, actually. I have been doing that this whole time. There wasn't even anything to figure out because this is information I just already had. I'm not saying that I'm not a dumb bitch. I am, and Beans agrees with me. But I'm not this dumb, and neither are you. Probably. And it's really weird when you read books where the author clearly thinks that her audience is stupid. And Tilly's like, we might be able to defeat Tinkerbell if the shadows unite to overthrow her. Anyway, they head back towards Pan. Chapter 25 is Bash. This chapter is mainly just Bash flexing on himself. He's really feeling himself now that he's got his wings back. He also notes that even though he hasn't had his wings in a long time, he's still not as rusty as some of these Fae warriors seem to be. Like, it feels like they've never flown before. It's real weird, Trey weird. And there's one Fae warrior he doesn't recognize. And if that seems like foreshadowing of something important to come, I'm in the future and I'll let you know now. Nothing comes of that. He just notes that some of the Fae warriors he's never seen before. All jokes aside, this book is terribly structured. It is not organized in any way at all. Anyway, Bash sees Darling and Tilly and his brother coming back up the walkway, but they aren't fighting, so that must be a good sign. I drop to the path and I'm aware of the new majesty that is me. So if the golden abyss is Vane, then the new majesty is Bash. Love it. Darling's mouth pops open, her eyes going round. I flush with pride. Fuck yeah, I look hot. I've always looked better with wings in my humble opinion. Humble? I thought this was Bash's chapter. To me, it sounded a little vain. A little vain. Get it? Yeah. Whatever the opposite of humble is what that opinion was. But hey, not everybody's aspiring to be humble, am I right? Darling rushes over and drools over them and the majesty that is them. And they're talking about how they never wanted the shadow, not for a minute, and that's what makes them perfect to own it. We know, don't we, Beans? Yeah, no, we already knew that. They all chat. I skimmed, admittedly. They ultimately decide that Tilly's sins are forgiven but not forgotten. Shall we unalive our stupid mother now, or what? I vote yes. Beans? He's undecided. Tilly braids one of the boys' hair for battle. Whichever one has long hair, I forget every single time. She also braids the other one. He has like a little silly little braid that just sticks straight up on his head, alfalfa style. And he's like, how do I look? New braid goofing. Tilly cries because of how alone she's felt for so long and how sorry she is. And they're like, no worries, Tilly Willy. Their nickname, not mine. Let's go unalive our mother now. All right. Chapter 26 is Winnie. They're approaching the treehouse with caution because they see a lot of Lost Boys littering the ground, but no sign of Tink or Pan. Uh-oh. They head inside to get ready. I dress in warmer clothes, but clothes I imagine a girl can fight in. I'm no warrior, but I am Winnie Darling, and I will not let Tinkerbell take what's mine. Why'd you say it like that? Like, why? Why did you say it like this? What are clothes a girl can fight in? I need a sketch. A few things came to mind when I read that line, like Lara Croft, Mila Jovovich in Resident Evil, Michonne from The Walking Dead, which is the most practical outfit of the bunch, and she carries a samurai sword. So if I were gonna get dressed to head into battle, which I'm in no state to, but let's just go with it, I would pick either leggings or joggers, and depending on which, I would either have boots for the leggings or really comfortable tennis shoes for the joggers, a sports bra, and a t-shirt, and all of this would depend on the environment that I was in and the opponent that I was facing. With all of those items I just said in mind, are those not clothes that a guy, gal, or non-binary pal could be comfortable and could also fight in?
Both men and women and non-binary people of all gender appropriations and the pronouns.
Why would... Ugh, whatever. Just be honest and say what you mean. I got dressed with comfort and bangability in mind. I got dressed to slay in more ways than one. Alexa, play Dress to Kill by Drop Dead Gorgeous. Anyway, the boys are dressed now too. They're both wearing dark royal blue clothes with like metal plates and leather cuffs. They're looking cool. They're looking great. All of those things a girl could also wear, but whatever, I digress. Vane is dressed in all black and looks like an assassin. We never get to hear what Winnie is wearing, shockingly. Even after everything we just went through and the specific distinction of how she plans to wear what a woman can fight in, I still don't know what that looks like or what it means.
What does that mean?
Sometimes it catches me off guard how otherworldly they all are, how they're all mine. Someday, when we're no longer at constant war on Neverland, I'll take them to my world and parade them around the people I used to go to school with. I got along with most of the girls in my town, but there were definitely a few who knew I was beneath them. Like literally, were you banging the girls too? Because up until now, you've only said boys. I'm just kidding.
It's metaphorical!
They would lose their ever-loving minds for Vane and the twins. Who wouldn't? This is such an 18-year-old thought to have, though, and it just further icks me out. One day, I'm gonna bring my hottie boyfriend back to town and show him off with all the losers I used to go to school with. No one fucking cares, Winnie. As a 30-something-year-old millennial, no one gives a shit. Hot iron candy or not, you're still a fucking idiot. Also, it has been said multiple times through the course of this series that she never stayed in one place for too long. So where are you going back to? I'm gonna take them back to my world and parade them. Are you doing a road trip? Are you gonna just show them off to everyone that you've ever known ever? Are you taking them by Starla's place? Will she be proud? Anyway, the plan is to distract Tink while Tilly stabs her with the same blade that almost killed Vane. And since Tink doesn't have a death shadow, it should work. If it doesn't, there's always plan B. What's plan B? They don't tell us. They don't even tell Winnie when she asks. This is a theme in this book, I guess, because Rock did the same thing earlier when he was like, I guess we'll go to plan B. So much for plan... What was plan A? What's plan B? What's the plan at all? What are we talking about? Peter Pan's not there, by the way, but he's not with Tink either. We find that out in a few pages. No idea. Last we left him, he was bleeding and not feeling so great. So they head in the direction of the palace, but as soon as they step out of the trees, Tink and an entire army are waiting for them, and she's like, no Pan, I see. Maybe he's dead. Mayhem ensues. Darling and Vane let the shadow drive most of the time, do most of the work. She does mention that her coat is getting covered in blood, so we do know Girly Pop's wearing a coat. A special girls only coat, I bet. Lots of fighting, stabbing, unaliving of Faye and Lost Boys. The boys corner Tink. Tilly comes out of nowhere but it does nothing. Big surprise. Really wishing right about now I knew what plan B was, fellas. Anybody gonna tell me? Chapter 27 is Rock. Holy shit, I almost forgot about this guy. He is apparently watching everything unfold from a distance and says that this is the only time he'd prefer popcorn over peanuts. Peanuts is said 16 times and nuts 6 times. So Rock finds a bleeding Pan on the beach near the lagoon and he wanders over to have a little chat. Pan's crying and Rock is like, boys cry too. Wow. Snaps for Rock. And Pan's like, Vane will never forgive you for what happened to Lainey, their sister, which I don't know why this is even a storyline because there is nothing to it. And then Rock asks why Pan's crying. Because I lost everything that I am. And he doesn't understand why. Why would the lagoon bring back Tink? There has to be a reason, a lesson that it's trying to teach me. Maybe not everything's about you. Have you thought of that? Rock gets philosophical on his ass while eating peanuts, because what else would he do? And basically tells him that nothing matters except right now and what you do with the time you're given. Rock asks Pan what the lagoon told him, and Pan spills. I don't know why he would. I didn't think we trusted the crocodile. I thought it was a villain, but desperate times, I guess. Reminder that the lagoon said nothing. Never king, drenched in darkness, terrified of light. You cannot have light without darkness. Rock and Pan wade into the lagoon a little bit. Rock asks Pan if he trusts him, and Pan's like, absolutely not. And then Rock's like, well, let me ask a different way. Do you trust that I know things that others don't know? Pan says yes, and Rock lunges at him. Time skip to the exact same moment. Rock is seemingly drowning Pan in the lagoon. He has a theory, but after Pan stops resisting and then just sinks to the bottom of the lagoon, he's a little worried about the validity of that theory, but he just props himself up on the beach, grabs his nuts, and just watches and waits. Chapter 28 is Balder. Forgot about this bitch too. He flashes back to watching Pan's mom plop him into the lagoon. She calls Balder brother when she speaks to him and asks, am I doing the right thing? She second guesses herself and then thinks about going in after him and saving him, but Balder tells her the lagoon will give him what he needs. Telepathically, of course. It's a dog after all. Then a very aged up boy breaks the surface of the lagoon, and his mom and the wolf hide in the woods to watch. If he sees me, I fear I will never leave him. Watch over him for me, brother, as much as I can, the wolf answers. You watch from the earth, she says, and I will watch from above. The wolf nods and the mother flies off, returning to her place in the sky. She's easy to spot if you just look up. She's the brightest shining light in the dark, the second star to the right. So Balder is watching from the earth and is also the brother of Pan's mother, who is watching from the sky. Is she a star? Is she a god? Count me in as who cares. Chapter 29 is Rock, and he's still waiting when all of a sudden, water explosion! A geyser of water comes up and Peter Pan, glowing like a star, shoots off, burning through the clouds. Peter Pan can still fly, it would seem. I suspect gods need no shadow to take to the sky. So she was a god, and so is Pan. Got it. Makes no goddamn sense, but okay. Chapter 30 is Pan. He regales us on how he can now see Balder's memory of that day and how he's always been afraid of light, but the shadow was there to ground him until he knew what to do with his light. He zips through the sky and sees his chosen family fighting down below, and he messages them telepathically that he's coming and he knows that they can hear him. I don't care, and we are so close to the end. Let's just keep going. Chapter 31 is Winnie. Winnie's hurt and they are losing the battle. Tink is giddy over this, but then a magical glowing light shoots through the sky and straight into Tink. No time to suss this out now. We have a fight to win. Pan tells everyone to restrain Tink while he takes her head in his hands and kills her with light, I guess. These chapters are as short as they are boring. They're still boring. I'm still bored. Chapter 32 is Bash. The boys are holding their mom as she dies by ultraviolet light exposure and expires in a poof of pixie dust. Winnie rushes to Pan and says she was worried. Oh my god, what happened? And he's like, I'll tell you later. I'm still waiting to hear about what plan B was. Tilly approaches her brothers and asks to speak with them so she can thank them for cleaning up yet another one of her messes. She tells them, you're right to rule, and I gotta go my own way. She will leave Neverland to see what's out there because for the first time in her life, she's going to do what she wants. And she promises that if she settles in somewhere, she will write to them and ask them over for dinner. Chapter 33 is Pan. He's working to gather up all the fallen lost boys, and Vane approaches. Vane's like, what happened? You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Try me. Rock helped. Rock, my brother helped you? He helped you what? Become a glowing orb of light? And then Pan looks over at Darling and says, I'm a better man because of her. And Vane's like, we all are. How? Pray tell, how does Darling have anything to do with him being a god or a good person? They all say they love each other. Chapter 24, Winnie. 2 weeks later, we find her looking through a telescope.
I'm looking at you through the glass.
The mighty Peter Pan was once birthed by a star goddess, abandoned on Neverland as a boy because he was too volatile, only for the lagoon to give him the shadow so that his true nature would be subdued by the shadow. Or at least that's my theory. That's her theory. Bravo, Winnie. Well done. Pan has been stingy with the details. When I asked him if he was a god, he just scooped me up and carried me to his bed and me until I forgot the question. They all toast to the boys being kings again, and they ask Winnie if she will be their queen because she's a darling whore who likes bossing them around. So why not boss around all of Neverland? Great idea. They all bow to their new queen. Not me, though. I look around the room at the 4 men before me on their knees. I love them, each one of them, in my own way, and they love me in turn. My vicious men, all of them, mine. Bravo. Epilogue. Rock. He and his nuts have joined Tilly on the ship set for Everland, assumedly to get Wendy, but Tilly asks Rock if he's excited to see Hook too. I snort. And press into another shell, breaking it open, but I don't answer the question. I can't. Because there's one thing troubling me most of all. I'm excited to find Wendy, yes, but there's one person I'm more excited to see. A pirate with a... a pirate with a fuckable mouth and an attitude I'd love to break. I'm coming for you, Captain. I hope you're ready to be devoured by the crocodile. The literal only thing that I cared about even slightly in this series, and it never even happened in this series. I would have to read the standalone book that was published a couple months ago in order to get any closure on that. So, we're done! Oh my god. Okay, so I'm gonna try to organize my thoughts in a way that this series could never, and try to properly sum up my collective thoughts on these 4 stupid books. If I had to sum up the series in one sentence, it would be, this could have been cool, but it wasn't. I personally love retellings and reimaginings of classic fairy tales and folklore, and the story of Peter Pan is one of my all-time favorites as far as worlds and universes and lore and stories to revisit. I love Peter Pan. This was stupid though. It was poorly organized, terribly structured, the writing was juvenile, repetitive, my god. Things were brought up or introduced into the plot for literally no reason at all, and they were never fully flushed out or expounded upon. They were literally just there. See things like the Bone Society, the Myth Makers, Swerker's Starla, the fact that Tilly knew where the shadow was the entire time and was just torturing darlings for funsies instead of destroying the shadow or grabbing it up and hiding it somewhere else that no one else could find it ever. As soon as I started reading this book specifically, I was so bored. The constantly repeating themselves and the plot points over and over again does not make for a great reading experience. And since the author spent 3.5 of the books doing just that, I knew there was never going to be a good resolution to this story. Like, that is just too tall of an order. We didn't even get to rescue Wendy. Wendy Darling, the original Darling, or is she? I don't know. They kept making that fucking unclear. Wendy Darling being an afterthought in a Peter Pan retelling is a choice. The entire series felt like an accident. It read like a first draft, and not even a well thought out one. A first draft that was basically you just word vomiting out all of your ideas onto the page in real time, and then being like, good enough, publish. But it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good. Sometimes the first ideas that come to mind shouldn't be the things that you let take flight, pun intended. But the worst part, every book was like that. Not just the first one. Because I'm willing to let it go that maybe the first book in a series is a little wobbly and you clean it up throughout the rest of the series. But never once did this feel like a cohesive story. I'm just here for the smut and the vibes. Well, I got some books for you then. However, me, I wanted a little bit more. I want to be able to trust that you can build a decent world and tell a decent story that will make me want to turn the pages alongside good smut. Since we're talking about smut, let's talk about the smut. No thanks. The only sexual tension that was properly built and held here was between Rock and Hook, and we don't even get any resolution to that. Everybody else were just horny, magical, misogynistic man-children waiting to bone the abused, neglected, traumatized, hypersexual, freshly 18-year-old literal child that they just kidnapped a few days ago. Call me crazy, but I don't derive any sort of pleasure from that. Hearing graphic details of how properly this child is banged by these undead, magical, century-old beings who are not interesting enough to be able to tell the difference between. This is like,
Ho, we're gonna make it fashion.
Except instead, it's like, ho, but make it Neverland and grooming a little bit. And all of this was made even worse by some of the cringiest smut that I've ever seen. Don't get cocky. I won't. I'll just get cock. It's okay to choke on Lost Boy, but not chicken and biscuits. We're the Lost Boys, and there's plenty of lost to be found. Did not do it for me. But at all. The aspect of the different islands and realms is another thing that could have been cool, but required a little bit more skill in order to execute it properly. And this is another thing that they just talked about for no fucking reason. The shadows, same deal. There was not enough space or skill in these books to properly flesh out and explore all these things in the time that we had. What do you mean? You want me to properly flesh out all the random stuff that I tossed in here? But the plot isn't just gonna repeat itself every other page. What do you want from me? Some editing could have helped. The ending was stupid. Peter Pan was a god the entire time. I don't have the brain cells left right now for me to like go back through all the instances in this book where that simply wouldn't have made any sense. No, I don't have the time for it. What a letdown of a series. 1.5 stars. Just because it's not as bad as Colleen Hoover or Haunting Adeline, but it is still a stinker if you ask me. But hey, at least we had fun, right? We got 4 videos out of this series. And people on my Bindery, Patreon, or channel members on the YouTube got 7 more in the form of reading vlogs. So that's 11 videos in total, and that's pretty cool. So maybe the real magic was the rants we had along the way. Thank you for watching and being patient with me. Some of you may know, some of you may not. I haven't really been doing well mentally. My depression has been just clinging on for a little too long, and I'm starting to take meds again and get back into my therapy routine so that I can try to be the best I can be for everyone who likes me and depends on me. If you enjoyed this video and you want to support my work, it's greatly appreciated. I have, like I said, a Bindery page, a Patreon page, and you can join here on YouTube and become a channel member, and you get early access to videos and members only content. It's a lot of fun, and it helps me pay the bills and keep quality content coming your way. I also want to gently but firmly remind you that I am trying to fundraise for my friend Haneen, whose family members are stuck in Gaza and desperately need your help to try to get evacuated safely. That is linked below. Donate if you can. If you can't, sharing it would be very helpful, and I would appreciate it, and I know Haneen and her family would too. When the goal is reached on Haneen's fundraiser to evacuate her family, I will read Where's Molly by H.D. Carlton. This is in the Cat and Mouse Haunting Adeline universe, and it is not something I look forward to. But I am passionate about getting my pal's family to safety. 2 birds, 1 stone. All the links to everything that you could ever want below. I have socials, Instagram, TikTok. You can follow me on there. There's a Discord I think is linked below. I'll have to double check. Thank you again for watching and sticking with me for so long. We are finally finished with the Vicious Lost Boys, and it could not have come at a better time. I cannot do this anymore. I look forward to seeing you in my next rant review, which will be Flames of Chaos by Amelia Hutchins. And I am not having fun, but hopefully that means that you will have a lot of fun. Leave a beans emoji in the comments if you made it this far, and I think for making it this far, we all deserve some sweet, beautiful bean footage. Look at the sheepy baby. He's a sheepy boy. He's getting so big. All things considered, he's doing pretty well. He's so sweet. He did wake me up at 4 in the morning, so I'm a little bit annoyed about that, but he's so cute. You can't really stay mad at him. He's so sheepy. I bet. 4 a.m. It's really early. We love you. You don't have to say it back. And again, thanks for being here.